Hello, podcast listeners. You are now listening to the Coffee, Health, and Science podcast. I'm your host, Jordan River, and I want to thank you for tuning in today. I've got my Purity coffee right here, and I have Dr. Stephen Hellshine, a.k.a. Dr. Coffee, on the phone. How you doing, Dr. Coffee?
I'm doing fabulous. I'm sitting here also drinking a cup of coffee, so it's making me happy.
I love it. It's just that simple. Love what you're doing. Love what we're doing here on this podcast, changing the world's view on coffee. Such a pleasure, such an honor. Today, we're talking about coffee's effect on longevity, and coffee as sort of an anti-aging superfood. Just real quick off the top here, Dr. Steve, enlighten us. What's the deal with anti-aging and antioxidants? Is the oxidation process kind of the same thing as aging? Does it contribute to it? What do you think about that?
Great question. So there are lots of things that contribute to aging, but they all sort of boil down to inflammation and oxidation.
Mm-hmm.
So in our body, for those who don't know, we have these processes that take place in which our chemicals sort of rust. So if you cut an apple and it turns brown, that's oxidation taking place. If you look at a screw and it's starting to rust, that's oxidation taking place. That reaction occurs in all places in the body. And I always say to people, I'd rather burn out than rust.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd like to burn out over a longer period of time, not a short period of time. And in order to do that, you have to have antioxidants.
Mm-hmm. So that's a huge player in coffee is the antioxidant and the anti-inflammatory properties.
Unbelievable. Nobody understood it. And I've been, writing materials on this for years now. Coffee is the antioxidant superfood. I'll go up against my coffee against your antioxidant any day. I'm sure we're going to win in a fist fight, and I don't even have Sylvester Stallone coaching me.
Love it.
Coffee is the superfood in antioxidants. There's nothing better.
And not just that, also the effect on all these different diseases and cancers. Just really quick, give us a quick list of how coffee can help preserve your body.
So it helps in every system. It's a wonderful anti-aging superfood. You and I are going to get into, in detail, coffee and cancer and coffee and heart disease, but I will go through a list with you. It enhances brain function. It reduces the risk of Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and dementia. It increases energy. It protects the heart and cardiovascular system. It helps fight cancer, all types of cancer. We'll go into each one when we have our in-depth discussion on cancer. It reduces the risk to type 2 diabetes. It's a liver protector. It promotes weight loss, and we know that diabetes and obesity is the epidemic now that leads to just about every major disease we have.
Wow.
And so it promotes weight loss. It improves sports performance. It helps fight depression and enhances mood. It reduces the risk of retinal damage in your eye. And here's a surprising one most people don't know. As an anti-inflammatory, it reduces the risk of MS.
Wow. Multiple sclerosis. Wow.
Yeah. Here's another biggie. It suppresses pain, and we have this opioid epidemic, and coffee acts as a pain suppressant and anti-inflammatory. I'm not saying it will cure pain, but it sure does help.
Fascinating stuff.
What's really the big thing that most people don't understand is that it extends human life. It's probably the best and easiest thing we can do in our diet to affect how long we will live.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, as a doctor, you must be looking at this from a specific standpoint because it's not about what's most effective a lot of the time. It's about what people will do, what someone's actually going to incorporate into their life, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if I told everybody that they had to take, see, you're a lot younger than me, but when we were growing up, we used castor oil for everything. Everybody thought that was a godsend, and if
Castor
anything
oil.
hurts, give them a tablespoon of castor oil, and everybody had to hold their nose, and the taste was horrible, and it was a horrible medicine. Well, I'd much rather sit down to a cup of purity coffee than have to drink castor oil. So it's something that can easily be done.
Hmm.
And, I'm in the middle of writing a book called Your Finest Hour,
Hmm.
which is about what you should be doing the first hour of your day in order to make your life the best it can be. And in that hour, I use meditation and making your coffee as part of the healing hour,
Oh, I love
because
it.
there's something about getting in the mindset and being mindful about grinding your coffee and then putting the ground beans in the machine and then turning it on and watching. I mean, it's just something wonderful about it.
Yeah, and coffee lovers know what you're talking about. That's the thing about coffee lovers. People who love coffee. So that's why I'm so into it. But let's talk numbers here. As far as extending human life, I know there's a couple different figures that I've seen, but you tell me.
Yeah. So if I have lectured in the past and I said to people, would you believe that drinking 4 cups of coffee a day would decrease your risk for premature death by 5%? And they would look at me and go, really, that much? And I go, no, 10%. And they go, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And I go, no, 20%.
Wow.
And that's for men. It's 26% for women,
Jeez.
which means they get to stay around longer drinking coffee than we do.
That's the thing about those late years. You can still drink coffee. You can still enjoy some purity. That's fascinating stuff, man. There's no higher leverage move for your health. Now, what do you attribute this to? Do you attribute this to the fact that it helps so many different systems? Obviously, it's potent, but the fact that it covers so much stuff must lead it to, like you said, lower risk of premature death. Did I kind of hit it there?
You did. And, let me recap what I wrote. I have a book called Coffee as a Medicinal Herb. In the book, we talk about extending life, and I quote a study that was published in the Annals of Internal Medicine, which looked at total and cause-specific mortality, meaning death, and it examined the association between how much coffee you drink, both caffeinated and decaffeinated, and the risk of total and cause specific death.
Hmm.
And they looked at about 75,000 women in the nurses study, and they looked at 93,000 women in the NHS study, and they looked at 40,000 men in the health professional follow-up study, and they concluded that higher consumption of total coffee, caffeinated coffee, and decaf coffee was associated with a lower risk of total mortality.
Mm, yeah, and
Total risk. And the leader who hypothesized this looked at the combination between the lignans, which we talked about last time or
mhm.
2 times ago, magnesium, quinine, and the other key phytochemicals in coffee. And as I explained in one of our podcasts with you before, Jordan, that there's a gestalt where the sum is greater than the parts,
Yes.
and that these combinations of magnesium, quinine, catechol, lignans, all work together to exponentially reduce the risk for disease by reducing inflammation, but also to keep down oxidation, which extends lifespan.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the fact that higher consumption of coffee, that's telling in that coffee has a dose dependent effect. When doctors are looking to see if a certain study is true or a certain substance has a certain effect, dose dependent is huge, meaning the more you have of it, the more of the certain effect that it has. Is that a correct assumption?
It is, and we know that there's a sweet spot for most of these studies between 4 and 8 cups a day.
Oh wow! You see, I've heard 3 to 5, 4 and 8 is really interesting. I know 4 is a recommended number. 8 is a lot. That's a pretty big commitment
Well,
for a
it
coffee
is,
lover
but I
like you.
think
It's not, but
yeah, for me, I just hook the IV up when I get up in the morning, and then I chug all day. But um, the 4 cup a day is to me what people should be doing.
mhm.
But everybody had this question: if I'm drinking 8 cups a day, is that then bad for me? And what we found out is no. We
Mhm.
found out that drinking 1 cup a day has a 12% lower risk from death from various causes.
Jeez.
We found that 3 cups a day has an 18% reduction. And 4 seems to be the minimum sweet spot. And in a lot of these studies, people were drinking 8 cups a day, and it still had a great bang for the buck when it came to longevity.
Mhm. And this isn't just one study you're talking about here. Coffee's been studied. We're going to do a whole episode on studies, the false studies, the true studies, the emerging studies. But when it specifically comes to longevity, this just wasn't one isolated incident. Talk to me about some of the different studies, what they found, how they differed, how they were the same.
So we are talking about large cohorts of people. This is not where 12 people got a vaccine and 12 people got a placebo and what happened. Again, we're talking hundreds of thousands of people that are looked at in these different hypotheses of will caffeine and coffee be positive? Will decaf and coffee be positive? So we've looked at everything from cancer to Parkinson's disease. We know that people get a better bang for the buck with caffeine and coffee with Parkinson's than they do from decaf and Parkinson's.
Mm-hmm.
And when you and I do studies, we'll outline all these out. But we're talking about 500,000 men and women, for example, from age 50 to 71, all part of the AARP group that were studied for 12 years.
Wow.
12 years.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't even think about health for 12 years. They're kind of in and out of it. So this
Right.
was a big study, and they found that there was a decrease in all-cause mortality
Mm-hmm.
with the more coffee you drank.
Yeah.
I mean,
mm-hmm.
it's just amazing to me.
Yeah, especially for the elderly. What an easy addition. And let me ask you this, Steve. Let's kind of go off course here. What are the implications for the healthcare industry? I mean, some of these numbers that you give out on diabetes and cancer, they rival, if not destroy, medications, pharmaceutical medications designed for the same purpose. If this gets out and everybody's drinking healthy coffee and we start to solve some of the nation's, let's not say solve, but let's say put a huge dent in some of the nation's biggest health problems, a lot of people are going to lose a lot of money. A lot of interests are going to be really upset. What are the implications of these studies?
They are humongous. Hippocrates, and people quote this all the time, says, let thy medicine be food, or you are what you eat. Well,
Mm-hmm.
let me tell you that coffee is the most consumed beverage around the world.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can use it as a medicinal beverage, if we can really leverage it to do what it needs to do as an antioxidant, as an anti-inflammatory, then we are really looking at a very cost-effective way of reducing illness, reducing death.
Hmm.
As I said before, um, I've been working on this paper on oral pharyngeal cancer and coffee. And just think about it. You drink 4 cups of coffee a day and you cut your risk to mouth cancer, cancer of the pharynx, oral cancer down by 49%.
Jeez. Jeez. So I mean, they're like I said, that's just as effective, if not more effective, than a lot of different medications for a lot of different issues. Are MDs going to be happy to prescribe this stuff? I mean, that's kind of what we're seeing. We see it in the more holistic medicine world already, but are MDs going to be happy to give their patients this and instead of pills?
So I don't know that the two really compete. I think the amount of pills you'll wind up giving when you've cleaned up a person's diet. So it's not just coffee, though coffee is, I'm Dr. Coffee, and coffee is what I live, eat, and breathe
Right.
here.
But they're not mutually
But
exclusive.
they're not mutual exclusive, and it's not coffee. So for somebody to say, yeah, I'm drinking 4 cups of purity coffee a day now, I can still live off of cheesecake and Coca-Cola. That's just not, and smoke cigarettes. That's just not going to cut it. So we're looking at changing a person's health, and the easiest way that I know of to change a person's health is to change the quality of what they're drinking.
Mm.
And when we talk about the quality of what you're drinking, you're talking about a good quality coffee made with good quality water,
Hmm.
without all the mocha java cappuccino,
Hazelnut
whipped cream.
creamer. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about using this as a medicinal food.
Hmm. And I kind of want to just touch on this. You're talking about the quality of what we're drinking. What we're drinking as Americans is soda. Um, and soda is really, 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 really bad for you. I think it's just more and more clear that that is the culprit, is the liquid calories in this country. That's what you see. The big differences between our super obesity and other countries' obesity tends to be the amount of calories and sugar we get from our beverages. Would you say that switching from soda to coffee, on a large scale as a society, would have a massive impact on our healthcare system? I mean, how big do you think it would be?
Massive is not big enough. It's just not a big enough word. Um,
Astronomical.
yeah, astronomical is getting close. It's really also exponential because
Mm.
we teach our kids
Yes.
health habits.
Hmm.
And if the kids grow up in a house where both parents live on soda and cigarettes, and they see that's what their parents do and that's what they start doing, then we're just, as population increases and as climate change, which I believe in, increases, and we have more significant problems with the air we're breathing,
Hmm.
I think the biggest, easiest, most phenomenal thing we can do is change the quality of what we're drinking per day. And I think a good quality water leading to a great quality coffee, without a lot of chemicals added to that, is really the way to go. And I just can't overemphasize how important it is
Yeah.
to increase your longevity by increasing your coffee intake.
And that's what we love doing on this show is spreading the word. Really quick, let's hit the listeners with a recap with the numbers that they can arm themselves with here. Coffee is an anti-aging superfood, mostly because of its wide-ranging and potent effects. Give us a quick rundown of the numbers one more time there on each cup of coffee, dose-dependent effect on lifespan.
Absolutely. So, drink 1 cup of coffee a day. You'll decrease your risk for all cause mortality by 12%. Drink 3 cups of coffee per day. You'll decrease it by 18%. Drink 4 to 8 per day. You'll decrease it by 20%.
And even higher for females.
and even higher, 26% for females.
Fantastic.
So it's definitely worthwhile doing. It's an easy fix. It's an easy hack. We call it biohacking. Finding ways to hack your biology to make you healthier.
I love it. Love it. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this, Dr. Steve. As always, it's such a pleasure.
My pleasure. I'll talk to you all later. Bye
Everybody,
now.
find out more about Dr. Steve at ibleedcoffee.com. And thank you so much for listening. We appreciate each and every one of you listeners. I'll see you next time on the Coffee, Health, and Science podcast.